Homo sapiens may rule the world today, but things haven't always been that simple, and we're far from the only humans to have walked the face of the Earth. Better known as Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis lived in Western Eurasia between 400,000 and 40,000 years ago. They differed physically from modern humans. Aside from being around 5 feet tall, they also had lower, elongated skulls, prominent brow ridges, smaller chins, and larger teeth. Neanderthals had an advanced culture for the time, too, using tools, wearing clothes, and making artwork. And there's one particular behavior that they share only with Homo sapiens. They buried their dead. While modern humans didn't evolve directly from Neanderthals, we do share a common ancestor, which means they're widely considered to be our closest evolutionary relatives. In 2013, Homo neanderthalensis became the first extinct human species to have its complete genome sequenced, which led to the discovery that there had been significant interbreeding between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. Genetic tests show that a modern human can contain as much as 4% Neanderthal DNA. We also know that Homo neanderthalensis was one of the last known human species to go extinct, leaving Homo sapiens to rule the Earth. Yet the cause of their demise is something of a mystery. Some believe they were violently wiped out by Homo sapiens, while others claim they disappeared due to interbreeding with our species. Another prominent theory suggests that Neanderthals died out due to the extinction of the megafauna they hunted for food. This theory argues that Homo sapiens, who successfully developed their own trade networks, were able to find new sources of food and survive. Homo floresiensis was one of the last human species to go extinct, but also one of the most different from Homo sapiens. As far as we know, Homo floresiensis lived exclusively on the Indonesian island of Flores, where their fossilized remains were first discovered in 2003. What stands out most about these fossils is their size, with adults only reaching about 3 feet 6 inches in height. This fact, coupled with the species' rather large feet, has earned Homo floresiensis the nickname Hobbit.
Fair enough.
Based on fossil dating, scientists estimate that Homo floresiensis lived between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago. However, a jawbone found at another site on Flores, which may have come from Homo floresiensis or a related species, has been dated even further back to 700,000 years ago. What became of the species is a mystery, but their disappearance seems to coincide with the first evidence of Homo sapiens arriving on Flores. Based on this evidence, many scientists believe that hobbits were wiped out by modern humans. Bet Tolkien didn't see that one coming. Following the discovery of Homo floresiensis, paleoanthropologists realized that ancient humans had spread much further throughout Southeast Asia than previously thought. This inspired further digs in the area, and in 2019, researchers announced that yet another extinct species had been found, this time on the island of Luzon in the Philippines. Dubbed Homo luzonensis, the only evidence we have of these ancient humans is a set of 13 bones attributed to 2 adults and a child. Nevertheless, these bones appear unlike any other Homo species we know of. Fossilized teeth from Homo luzonensis are even smaller than those of Homo floresiensis, making them the second known dwarf human species. Both species sizes could be the result of insular dwarfism, a phenomenon in which large species become smaller in an island habitat in order to adapt to a more limited supply of resources. On top of that, the hands and feet of Homo luzonensis are curved in such a way that suggests they may have lived partly in the trees. This is a particularly shocking revelation given that the fossils were dated back to 67,000 years ago, at which point Homo sapiens had become firmly land-bound. In 2013, paleoanthropologists excavating a chamber in the Rising Star Cave system in South Africa discovered a collection of over 1,500 fossil fragments. They determined the fragments had come from at least 15 individuals of a brand new species dubbed Homo naledi.
It clearly gives us a signal to the origins of perhaps our species, but in a way we don't understand at this point.
Dated to between 236,000 and 335,000 years ago, the Rising Star Cave fossils appeared to suggest that Homo naledi may have been a stepping stone between early primates and modern humans. Their feet are similar to Homo sapiens, indicating they walked upright, but their fingers are curved, which suggests they could also move through treetops like chimpanzees and orangutans. Homo naledi are also notable for their small skulls. Their brains would have been about a third the size of ours, and a lack of tool remnants at the fossil site suggests a much less advanced mind than that of Homo sapiens. Based on the deep location of the fossils within the cave system, some have suggested that Homo naledi may have buried their dead, but this claim isn't widely accepted by scientists, as there's little other evidence to suggest it. Few species represent a greater leap in human evolution than Homo heidelbergensis. These extinct humans lived from around 700,000 to 200,000 years ago. They were the first members of our genus known to build their own homes, creating simple shelters from wood and stones. They were also the first humans to hunt big game such as deer, horses, and water buffalo, and they may have been the first to move beyond Africa and into Europe. It has long been thought that Homo heidelbergensis was the last common ancestor between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. According to this theory, the population of Homo heidelbergensis that lived in Africa evolved into Homo sapiens, while the population in Europe evolved into Homo neanderthalensis. In recent decades, though, this theory has been challenged. Some believe that fossils found in Spain represent another species called Homo antecessor, which later branched off into two lines. One of these lines evolved into Homo heidelbergensis and then the Neanderthals, while the other line evolved into Homo sapiens. This hypothesis implies that modern humans aren't descendants of Homo heidelbergensis at all, and so it remains highly contentious in the scientific community. Discovered in 1933, yet hidden away until 2018, the Harbin skull is the only evidence we have of the hominids known as Homo longi. It's also one of the best preserved hominum skulls ever found.
I said, oh my gosh, you can't believe that, So, and it is so well preserved. You can see all the details.
The skull, which was found in northern China, is larger than those of other extinct human species, meaning that Homo longi's cranial capacity would have rivaled our own. They also had huge teeth, large brows, and unusual eye sockets that are almost square in shape. Researchers have dated the Harbin skull to at least 146,000 years ago, estimating that it came from a 50-year-old male. Lacking any other bones to judge by, it's hard to say what other features might have stood out about Homo longi, or how they survived in their environment. However, the researchers who identified Homo longi do believe that they may be an even closer relative to Homo sapiens than the Neanderthals. The Denisovans are the first ancient humans to have been identified by sequencing their genome, a procedure performed on fossil fragments from the Denisova cave in remote Siberia. DNA analysis later revealed that Denisovans interbred with modern humans. Several indigenous peoples in the South Pacific, including indigenous Australians, have since been found to have traces of Denisovan DNA. Given that we only have a few bone fragments from which to study the Denisovans, there's been a great deal of debate within the scientific community as to whether these ancient humans were a unique species of their own or whether they were a subspecies of other humans. DNA analysis suggests that they were more closely related to Neanderthals than to us, but exactly where they fit in the Homo family tree is unclear. Some scientists have even proposed that the Denisovans and Homo longi were the same species. The Denisovan fossil fragments discovered thus far appear to span a long period of time, with some dating back as far as 194,000 years ago. On the other hand, a finger bone from one Denisovan has been estimated to be between 50,000 and 30,000 years old. Based on this, it is possible that the Denisovans, not the Neanderthals, were the last archaic humans to walk the Earth.